remember 2015, the first consensus we had, and it's much larger now, very different audience. So it's great to see so many people here interested in and excited about blockchain technology. So this morning, I'm really excited to kick off the enterprise blockchain track, and we're going to be having a little bit of a flashback to what's happened over the last 2 years. So today I'm going to be talking about a new initiative we're working on called DCG Connect, and I'm really excited to have all of you in this room here to not only share this with, but also I want to have all of you participate, and I'll tell you more about why. So I work at Digital Currency Group, and at Digital Currency Group, it is our mission to the development of a better financial system. Now, that doesn't just mean better in terms of faster, cheaper, more efficient. It also means better in terms of more inclusive and more accommodating to the rights of the individual. So what we do is we build, buy, and support Bitcoin and blockchain companies by leveraging our insights, our network, and our access to capital. So what does that mean? Well, we're a very diverse and very interesting company with a multitude of assets. We have a number of subsidiaries, including Genesis, Grayscale, who have a bar of gold, physical gold, that you can go and hold, so you should definitely check it out. And then CoinDesk, the media and events company that is hosting this event today. We've also now invested in 100 companies, all of them focused on digital currencies and blockchain technology that are spread around the globe in 27 different countries, which gives us amazing global insights into what's happening in different parts of the world, not just in terms of blockchain technology, but also with digital currencies, new protocols, and new platforms that are being created. We also, as our name implies, invest in and still love digital currencies. I know this is a controversial topic for some, but we're big believers in the potential of digital currencies to be an emerging asset class. And then we also periodically build new ventures. And the newest venture we're launching today is DCG Connect. So I want to take a step back and really go back to the roots of this industry. So Bitcoin was a weird concept that started in 2008 when this white paper came out. You've heard the story dozens of times, so I won't bore you with it. But what was interesting is in 2013, we started to see the emergence of a lot of the infrastructure that we rely on today. We saw mining pools developing, new protocols like Ripple and Ethereum emerging, wallets being created so people could actually store digital assets. And then we saw trading and tools platforms emerging. So how many people in here have ever used Coinbase? Okay, I know I have. So that was one of the first companies that actually enabled people to purchase digital currencies and get access to them. Then on top of that global infrastructure, we started to see payments applications emerge. Not just payments in the traditional sense, but new types of cross-border payments, remittance applications, micropayments platforms. Then once we had digital currency payments, we realized if you have digital money, you need digital identities. So we saw a wave of companies looking at using distributed protocols to build digital identities. Once you had digital identities, you needed registries to keep track of all of these different assets that were being digitized. So we said, well, if we can digitize money, if we can create digital currencies, how can we digitize other assets, like assets in a supply chain? Physical assets, how can we take them and put them in this distributed ledger? What about your identity as an asset? What about your own personal data? So we're seeing the emergence of all of these registries. Then the enterprise started to pay attention. They said, hey, this blockchain thing could be pretty useful. So we saw the development of a lot of different enterprise platforms, some of which are building on their own protocols, others are leveraging open protocols, and yet others are working on application-specific platforms. And then lastly, we're now entering this new era where we've gone beyond just blockchain and we've started looking at smart contracts, distributed computing, and a myriad of new applications that aren't relevant to just assets, but all sorts of things we can do if we take data structures and distribute them across organizations. Now the challenge is there's a lot of stuff out there. So when I say the word blockchain, every person in this room probably has a different interpretation of what a blockchain actually is. So this is just an overview of our companies, and there are a lot of different categories. Our network is broad. We've brought together startups, corporates, institutions, investors, academia, and regulators and policymakers to really start to drive the dialogue of what a future enabled by blockchain technology might look like. So this is a photo of our first ever DCG summit that we hosted in 2015. I found a hotel in Palo Alto. I rented it out for the day, and I said, let's bring together our companies and banks and institutions. And it was the first time we'd done it, and a bunch of corporates showed up, and they said, we had no idea all of this amazing work was happening with digital currencies and blockchain technology. No idea. So some of the first partnerships in our industry were formed at this very event. This little-known company called Ripple was there, and all of us by now have heard a lot about Ripple. So we started really experimenting with this format where we bring people, ideas, organizations together to connect, to discuss, and to identify opportunities. And so we're on this blockchain journey all together. We've all had that aha moment where you first become aware of blockchain, but it's very confusing, it's noisy. I work in this industry, and I don't even know what's going on most of the time. Then you start looking around. You go on the blockchain tourism trail. I think there's a fairly well-established trail. At some point, you'll probably go to San Francisco and meet with startups. You'll come to conferences like these. But it's very time-consuming, and there's not a lot of great data for you to leverage. Then you start to evaluate your options. What blockchain do I want? What use case is interesting? Who should I be working with? These questions are very difficult to sort through, and it's really unclear what criteria you should use to identify a partner. Then you start to engage and actually buy technology, but you start realizing there isn't really a lot of infrastructure that's been built around these products and applications, and it's kind of difficult to diligence what you're actually getting. And then when you actually start to implement the technology, I think this is going to be a recurring theme of conversation this week, is how do we move beyond POC and what companies can start to implement blockchain at scale. So we looked at this problem and we said, how do we help educate and build awareness? How do we reduce cycle time so companies aren't spending years educating and trying to help customers use their technology? And then more importantly, how do we help build more collaborative infrastructure? So we did another technology summit last year, and way more corporate partners came. It was a much bigger affair. We started playing around with this idea of facilitating connections at scale and putting into place processes and technology to help that happen. And so what we've come up with, let's take all of these connections and bring them together in DCG Connect. It's a membership-based organization that's dedicated to helping enterprises accelerate from blockchain exploration to production. So for corporate members, we offer three primary things: a network, knowledge, and the opportunity to actually apply the technology with the right startups and partners. For startups, we offer you the same. We offer you our network, an opportunity to gain exposure, but also the opportunity to deploy your product in partnership with partners who can actually scale at enterprise level. So we're proud to have as founding members IBM, AWS, CME Group, Foxconn, MasterCard, New York Life, Prudential, Transamerica, and CIBC. We also have a number of great startups joining us in this effort, and I would encourage all startups in the industry to join us. It's free to join, and we really want to help your products grow and scale. So our goal is to build a thriving blockchain ecosystem where all applications can thrive on all platforms and across use cases. So with that, I want to invite up Marie Week, who's the GM for blockchain at IBM, and we're going to have a quick little discussion. All right, so hi, Marie. Hi. Here, you take this one. I'll sit here. Sit in our little coffee room here. Great. So I know IBM's been spending a lot of time thinking about working on blockchain. And one of the big questions, I think, for everyone is, as you think about the space, how do you think about building the IBM ecosystem for blockchain? Where do you go? What are your priorities? How do you identify the right partners?
Well, we've been really coming off the basis of where do we see the opportunity and the interest from our clients. And we've been working with over 400 enterprise customers already at this point, have 9 enterprise networks in production, and have learned a lot in that journey and that experience in how to go from that tourism stage all the way through to a production network. And you really need the full set. We've talked about it a lot already today, that it's all about the network, and it's all about bringing the diverse ecosystem against a point of value. Where will benefits from trust and transparency actually provide a business benefit and fill out the full stack of the solution around that? So that we've done already with our own IBM ecosystem around blockchain, already 250 members participating there, but we really want to expand the aperture. And we've been working very closely with a number of your companies, including Axoni and Everledger and SKU Chain and other companies in the process. How do we get that access? Because what we found is many enterprise clients are very interested in getting that, and the startups are very interested in expanding their go-to-market approach. That combination, really powerful. So I think together we can really do more to accelerate the industry.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. So we have seen a lot of interest in and excitement around blockchain, but I think the ongoing question, I'm sure we get it as well, everyone in this room probably has this question is, so it's great to do a POC, it's great to experiment, but how do we actually bring this technology into the four walls of the enterprise and get it to production level? So what are you thinking about at IBM to resolve these challenges?
Well, we typically take, again, a practical approach. How do we use a notion of our own process and model where we do design thinking workshops, and the most important element is bringing together the constituents. You know, one of the things we got a lot of reaction from when we talked about the project we did with Northern Trust is that the regulators were part of that process. They were in the setup for the design, they were part of the POC, right. And when you have all of the interested parties, including ones that may have to view that and certify its validity, having them in at the start makes a really big difference. And we've now expanded that, just announced last week a study of over 3,000 CXOs on blockchain adoption across 20 different industries, really similar patterns across that. You know, so again, it's about bringing in the key stakeholders, bringing in the process knowledge, bringing in the ecosystem and the network effect. And if you can provide the right tools to make that easier, you can accelerate that adoption.
Absolutely. So you touched on the last point I just want to speak about. I know this conference is about blockchain, which is a technology, but I don't think what's happening is necessarily all about technology. One very important component of this is really developing a change in business behavior, a change in process, and really the mentality of an enterprise. So our organization, DCG Connect, we're working to create that momentum, that collaboration across different organizations and use cases. But how do you create the right environment for someone like an IBM who works with so many different institutions? You're already in all of these enterprises. How do you really shape that narrative for your stakeholders around how the business needs to change?
Well, it was very interesting in this new Institute for Business Value study, the explorers, those folks that are farthest along, that you saw on Arvind's curve, that are the trailblazers out there, they share the view that it's really not a technology problem, it's a business model problem. And the ones that are really getting the most success are looking for new ways to collaborate. They're looking at creating the new business models, and they're really focused on rapid prototyping to learn and explore the strategy. You're never going to get it right and perfect the first time, but if you can very quickly iterate and pivot off of the technology and how you see the use cases, then you can get that expansion. And I think just sharing those best practices across all of the players who are doing this today adds value, and we hope brings a lot of benefit back into the open community. We hope that these will get contributed back into the Hyperledger project. We hope that that really extends the notion of the economics for the whole industry.
Absolutely. So thank you, everyone, for your time. I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of exciting discussion about coalitions, collaborations today, but would encourage you all to join us and participate in DCG Connect in partnership with IBM. Thank you. Thanks, Marie.
Mel.